Hi, I'm Nik Ranger. Thank you so much for being here. This is SEO in 2024. It is awesome to be here. We have some really great topics that we're going to be discussing today. And I'm really excited to be talking about natural language processing in 2024 post-SGE world. Stay tuned.
Nik, what is your number one SEO tip for 2024?
Well, in 2024, we have a remarkable, uncharted ability to impact user intent at a level we have never been able to see before. My top SEO tip is to prioritize natural language processing and be able to understand user intent in a way that we've never been able to do that before. With the evolution of search engines and their algorithms, along with the increasing sophistication of AI-driven models, we're seeing SGE, search generative engines, placing even greater emphasis on understanding the context and intent behind user queries, that we can be able to reverse engineer these mechanisms to create better, high quality, valuable content, be able to understand our pages far better, and create internal linking methodologies that far outstrip anything that we've been able to do previously. I think this is absolutely incredible.
So you talk about a post-SGE AI influence world. Does that mean SEO is changing completely forever?
I don't think it's changing completely forever. I think our approach needs to change. I think with the rise of AI tools at our disposal, we can be able to leverage this to be able to empower ourselves, to be able to delve into new depths with code, and to be able to help answer questions previously difficult to be able to answer. So, for example, if natural language processing helps search engines to understand, interpret, generate, and utilize machine translation and sentiment and recognition, we can be able to leverage that to perform a suite of new tasks. For instance, I think that with ChatGPT 4 in particular, with Code Interpreter, we can also do custom instructions. We now have a much greater access to a library of a wealth of information that we've never been able to before. Using things like Hugging Face, things that Google themselves have generated, I think there's a whole access that we can be able to use to be able to do greater semantic understanding. So being able to look at different frameworks, being able to look at text embeddings, and to be able to capture more of a semantic content of web pages. I think that our access to be able to do that is in a way that we've never been able to before.
So how do you leverage natural language processing techniques for information retrieval?
So for information retrieval, say an SEO can be able to utilize this with using a suite of different natural language processing libraries, like libraries like Spacey, like TensorFlow. I love using Hugging Face a lot, like with their transformers. We can be able to utilize BERT to be able to do amazing visualizations. We can be able to do text pre-processing. So you might be able to crawl a whole pass of content, be able to prepare that text, the content for web pages and processing, and be able to strip them down to their text embeddings. So creating at either the page level, the sentence level, or even the query level, different mathematical representations for this text that you can be able to strip them down, be able to tokenize these things, remove any stop words, and be able to convert these so that we can be able to use this now clean data to be able to do a whole wealth of things. We can be able to use this to be able to unpack what the actual intent of that page is by, okay, we might have a whole corpus amount of text. We can be able to see what that actually looks like for a search engine, how that would be perceived. So we can be able to extract things like entities and things that we can be able to now attach their semantic meanings to those. We can be able to utilize like different pages and maybe be able to map them to each other. So create nice internal links or even like 3-1 redirects, be able to map like an old page to a new page. We can be able to do a whole wealth of things like that by calculating things like their similarity matrices, by looking at the different related pages to one another. Again, this is something that I've only ever dreamed of we've been able to do. And this is something that I would have to utilize, people smarter than me in computer science and data science. But now because of AI, we can be able to utilize these types of libraries and create Python and create text and be able to unpack this at a rate that is just unprecedented. So I really think that with this library, get in there, try and ask some really, really intuitive questions, and we can be able to solve questions at a rate that has just never been able to before.
And how do you use this process to score what you're currently doing, to give it some kind of comparison maybe against your competition? And so what software do you use for this?
Well, TensorFlow is pretty awesome. So TensorFlow and a whole variety of other different visualization tasks. Again, you could be able to map them out using Search Console APIs. We can be able to now map out the way that we can be able to see, say, for example, I'm literally thinking of an example where we've taken Search Console API, we've taken all of the queries, we've been able to look at the JSON content, and we've been able to unlock that to be able to find like similarities within the data. And this has been able to, we can be able to see the deviation. We've been able to see correlations between data where maybe over a period of time, based on last year, based on this year, we can now start to map whether or not that there's any strong correlations of any patterns. So say, for example, in an event, maybe an event from last year starting to generate some interest, and we've seen more impressions, we've seen more clicks go towards these cluster of queries. We can be able to detect that and say okay, well, based on what we saw from the historic data, we can be able to interpret that maybe this year we might have the same kind of patterns that might generate around the same time. And we can be able to pull these and extract this kind of level of detail out. And this is really easy to be able to do by building deviations from traffic baselines and doing strong correlations from Search Console data. Again, we can be able to ask and be able to build custom Python scripts that will be able to do this for us. And again, if you haven't done this before, this is now something that's made a lot more accessible and a lot more easy for a lot more people to be able to do that. And I think that that's just great, because I think that a lot more is going to come from this wider accessibility.
So how does this practically impact your SEO strategy? I'm imagining that you can analyze a lot of data at the same time, so you can determine maybe from thousands of potential opportunities to define the 50 core opportunities that you're going to focus on as part of your content marketing strategy over the coming year, for example.
I think you having really good grasp of the core concepts, you can now be able to perform tasks at a rate that is a lot faster and hopefully a lot more intuitive, because you're able to now graphically and show the visualization of what you're trying to express to, say, to a client or to a team, or to be able to build certain models to be able to help extrapolate what you're trying to say. And I think that's a really much easier way to be able to scale your work. I don't think it necessarily takes away from the core aspect of what you do as an SEO on a day-to-day factor, but I think the time to generate and also the amount of data that you can be able to merge and be able to create, utilizing maybe same processes that a search engine would, is something that is completely unprecedented.
Should every SEO be diving into this, be researching into this, finding out more about it, or is only a certain type of SEO that can do this, that should do this?
I think everyone can. And that's something that I thought was really, really amazing. In the same way that when we saw, for music, we saw electronic music completely revolutionized and leverage the playing field for a lot more people to be able to get in there and to be able to create music without formal musical background and training. Now we're seeing this in the tech world. Now we're seeing more people be able to get in and be able to create custom scripts, create ways to be able to talk to and integrate with different APIs, to be able to build more models that start to replicate the way that we're seeing in the wild, how it's been able to showcase and be able to transform the way that search engines work. So say, for example, I'm wanting to use the Knowledge Graph API to pull in a whole bunch of information and attributes about specific entities. I can be able to do that, and I can be able to link in my Google Search Console data, and I can be able to get a whole deeper level of extraction just based on pulling two APIs together to be able to build something unique. This is something that we can be able to do quite easily now. And I think with just using this as a platform to be able to put these methodologies out there, to put the opportunity of people to go and explore this, my biggest tip is to go play. In previous editions of this, I've said like, hey, let's look at the crawlability, before we even worry about whether it's going to rank or not. If it can't crawl, if it can't index, it can't render, then it's probably not going to rank and it's probably not going to be effective. That was my last year's recommendation. This year, I say like, okay, we've learned so many great things from the past, from what myself and other people have been able to recommend. This year is the year for play. And I think that's a really, really empowering way that we can be able to look at all the things that are now available to us. And instead of saying like, oh, maybe I might just sort of like see what comes out of this and be more of a passenger, I say, no, like get in the driver's seat. Let's start exploring our options. Let's start building things, test a few things, build a few things. And this can have a wide-reaching array of opportunity. And I think starting with natural language processing, starting at the very core of how search intent works, this is really bread and butter stuff for how an SEO, starts to learn about what they need to do to be able to make a page effective, is by understanding user intent. Well, now we can be able to utilize a whole variety of different libraries that really help do that work for us and start to give us really, really great clues that we can be able to use and sort of, use our own lateral thinking to think through this and think, okay, well, this is what it's presenting to me. Does this match what I think that this page should be about? Yes, maybe no. Okay, well, maybe I need to tweak things. Or, yes, this is right. Now, how can I be able to build something from this understanding of this is what this page represents, and how can I be able to look at not just one, not just two, but maybe 2,000, 20,000, 200,000 pages, and be able to now start to build this into a model where it's all integrated, and now it's starting to like pull out specific anchor text from the page and maybe build internal links that link up these pages. This is now like something that we can be able to do. And I think that's just awesome.
So where should an SEO go and play to begin with? And what are the first few steps of the game?
Well, the first few steps of the game, I would say, is like, okay, what is a particular task that you would be wanting to do? Do you want to maybe unpack the sentiment? Maybe you want to take a whole corpus of text and be able to feed and be able to understand it. Something that I really, really loved to do is like one of my first tasks was I built a crawler and I tried to mimic it the way that Screaming Frog, like one of my favorite tools, actually work. Hats off to Screaming Frog. What they do is actually incredible in the way that they've been able to build this tool. There's a reason why it's so awesome. It's really, really hard to replicate. But what I wanted it to be able to do was I wanted to crawl a whole bunch of pages and I wanted to be able to extract as much value out of that and maybe start to build more of like a way that I could be able to use this as an array to be able to say like, okay, with all these pages, how are we pulling all of this? So maybe I want to break down each of these pages into their own mathematical representations. And maybe we want to be able to see what that mapping looks like.
If an SEO is struggling for time, what should they stop doing right now so they can spend more time doing what you suggest in 2024?
To be honest, I don't really spend a lot of time with other SEOs at the moment. So the thing that I say, like, stop doing is maybe stop getting so distracted with the amounts of changes and things like that are happening. I think going back and trying to maybe go back to more fundamental work and understanding, more aspects around how a search engine works, like how things are built, why it would crawl a page, why pages would be picked up, why pages would be chosen over others. I think maybe going back and just, understanding the core aspects of, and just asking the why. And rather than paying attention and listening to other sources, I think going back and actually asking yourself why is such a valuable question. Because if you don't sort of understand these things, then I think you can get off the track really, really quickly.
Nik Ranger is Senior SEO Consultant at Dejan, and you can find her over at dejanmarketing.com. Nik, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2024.
Thanks so much, David.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2024, the book, over at SEOin2024.com.